Welcome to episode 11 of the Book Brothers podcast, the only podcast where two grown men talk about books. It's a novel idea.
I love
See what
that.
I did there? I'm Adrian De La Torre, aka Books Too Big on TikTok. And we're also on YouTube, by the way. The Book Brothers podcast. We have a nifty little purple logo. Very royal. I went for purple represents royalty, and that's what we are.
Yeah.
Not really, but
Very
with
fancy.
me today, as always, is Mr. David Cardoso, aka Professor Pixel, also
Yes.
on YouTube and TikTok.
Yes, the new title, Professor Pixel. I used to be Baby Sagan on YouTube and Blue Sky, but now I changed it to Professor Pixel because I think it fits me more better. I didn't want to copy Carl Sagan anymore. I was like, I'm just going to do my own thing now, you know? Carl Sagan's my inspiration, but that's my
So check David out. Check out Professor Pixel on YouTube. He's got lots of great videos. Yeah, lots of great science-related content.
Mostly science, some stories. I'm actually finishing up another children's story as well right now, so I'll have that out probably in a week or two, maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So lots of good stuff. I really enjoy your videos. I do watch as many of them as I can, by the way, whenever they pop up in my feed.
Yeah.
So yeah, check David out. And what are we talking about today, David? We're talking about The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. Oh, and you have the physical copy.
I have the physical classic Penguin edition, Penguin
Yeah.
Classics, The Prince.
I really like.
Niccolo Machiavelli.
Yeah, I like the Penguin's take on all these different classics. They look like paintings you could hang on a wall.
You know what's weird about this cover though? I was looking at it, and Machiavelli, they gave him like a weird janky eye. I don't know if you could see that there. His eye's all off. Like he has like a lazy eye on it. I don't know why, but
I see that. Yeah,
fun, but,
that is interesting.
So a really cool cover though, overall.
The Machiavelli estate will not be pleased.
I know.
So what is this book about? This book is The Prince, written in 1513, published in 1532, as a political treatise by Machiavelli, who's offering pragmatic, sometimes ruthless advice for rulers on how to gain and maintain power. Interesting that you chose this book. Unlike idealistic works about governance, Machiavelli emphasizes the harsh realities of politics, focusing on effectiveness over morality. His famous idea, it's better for a ruler to be feared than loved, if they can't be both. So, yeah, interesting book that you chose, David. I kind of feel like it's very relevant to the time, but I will turn it to you. Why did you choose this book?
Yeah, so I chose this book for many reasons. Not just because it was topical, but mostly I had heard about it before, and I was surprised, Adrian, when I told you, I was like, oh, we should read The Prince. And then, did you hear about this book previously? Have you heard about it before?
I've heard of Machiavelli. Isn't it like these are
just the adjective? It's an adjective.
Sorry.
Machiavellian.
Which I still don't, I'll be honest with you. And maybe you can explain this to me. I still don't fully
the term
understand
Machiavellian. So for people who don't know, Machiavellian just basically means someone that is like conniving and manipulative, and they'll use any means necessary to get what they want. That's kind of what it's going for. Like usually in this sense, it's talking about power. So people will do whatever they want to get power. Well, it turns out it's a perfect foray into today's political landscape. So that's partly why I wanted to read it, because Machiavelli is very famous for that, for this writing. Yeah, because I was interested in actually reading the source material, because I always heard about that term Machiavellian, and it sounded like, oh, it's someone evil, someone that's willing to do whatever they can to get power, to get money, whatever, fame. It could be anything.
That's not relevant at all. What do you mean?
I know. But the interesting thing about this book, so that's why I wanted to read it, and we'll talk back and forth about it. I'll give my first initial impressions of this book overall, called The Prince. Because initially I thought there was going to be a ton of stuff about how to be evil and ways to, hurt people. And there's certainly like bits of that in here. We'll talk about I highlighted, some good portions of it. Because he mostly talks about, as Adrian, you talked about it, this was published in 1513. So he mostly talks about Italian princes and the empire at that time. And he actually wrote the book for a Mr. Medici. Just kind of interesting. There was a the famous Medici family.
Who apparently imprisoned him, right?
I think so, yeah.
That's
Lorenzo de Medici.
Right.
Yeah, so now he's writing this book for him saying like, hey man, sorry about that stuff. Like, why'd you imprison me? But he gives his like political strategy to Medici in the hopes that it's like a gift for him. So he's saying like, hey, this is some strategy that you can use, when you're ruling and stuff like that. So he's giving it to like the Medici family. So yeah, I thought there was going to be a lot of like evil and stuff and how to be horrible, how to be a terrible person, but there's a little bit of that. But I would argue that this book surprisingly had a lot more history behind it than I thought. It had a lot about rulers, kings, princes, and he knows a lot about his history, which is pretty interesting. But I'm not a historical buff by any stretch. It's not my favorite subject, but it was mildly interesting because of that. He talks about different rulers, and he even brings up Marcus Aurelius, the old Roman philosopher king, and he used him as an example of someone that was actually. Aurelius is super kind and sweet, and he actually maintained his rule. He's one of the few that actually maintained his rule without being ruthless. So he was kind of one counter example that Machiavelli used in the book. But most of the rulers he talks about were Italian, Greek, Spanish, all these different ethnicities, and he just talks about why they were successful, why they were not. That was probably the bulk of the book, I would say, for the most part. But there were lots of rules and different things you should do and shouldn't do. Most of which I actually thought it was kind of a breath of fresh air to hear someone be so more honest with it, because he wasn't hitting your head over with, oh, be evil, but he would bring it up. But really, he was just saying, hey, I'm just being honest here. People are ruthless and mean and cowardly, and you have to do what you got to do. That's basically what he's saying.
Right.
And I was not I think it's a little different now, especially after a certain president, that we're kind of used to it now in the United States. But maybe in the United States we weren't used to it for so long, but you can see that some people do these tactics. They just do whatever they can to get into power, and that's it. And that has been history for a very long time. And so you'll see rulers follow that plan, depending on their morality or lack thereof. But yeah, I'll turn it over to you, Adrian. Any thoughts on that a little bit if you want to add to it? Or sorry, I see you're eating there.
Sorry.
Edit point.
Edit point. So here's the thing. Nobody is ever going to write that they're evil, right? Because they say history is written by the winners, and
Yes.
Even the most vile, terrible people throughout history didn't see anything wrong with what they did. So, and the fact that this book came out in the 1530s, which was around the time that countries like Spain, Portugal, and the UK, France were all colonizing other parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me, the people they were colonizing probably saw the evils every day. But, someone like Machiavelli, he wouldn't necessarily, admit or ever say or even think that anything that what they're doing or did is evil, but especially considering the time period. And it's also interesting that this was during the Italian Renaissance, so a sort of peak time for artists, philosophers, thinkers.
Yeah, that is an interesting thought.
Yeah, and apparently, so I have in my notes here that he was dismissed from the government service, briefly imprisoned by the Medici family, who regained control of Florence, and then he dedicated this to Lorenzo de' Medici, possibly as a way to win back political favor. So it's his intentions weren't 100% pure ever, right? Because he was doing this to
he's even trying to get back into politics.
Yeah, because he was outside. He was thrown off the ship, and he was just knocking on the hull.
Yeah.
Trying to get back in.
Interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting perspective from somebody at that time that you never really think about. But that is still, all these hundreds of years later, like you said, very relevant.
Still relevant, yeah. I think, yeah, it's pretty interesting. What's also interesting about Machiavelli himself, I didn't really know this, but he actually wrote some plays, and he wrote some other, I think he did some poetry. So after his falling out in the political field, then he started doing his studies. So he wrote The Prince, and he wrote a bunch of other plays and stuff like that. So talking about the Renaissance, so he was born at the time of the Renaissance too. So he was also an artist and a writer. Pretty interesting. But of course he wrote this. He was probably hoping this book, The Prince, he wrote to Medici, who imprisoned him. So he probably was trying to use this as a leg up to get back into that political world. So it's funny that he's, is he being manipulative by writing this book? Maybe in a way, but at the same time, he's he's being pretty ruthlessly honest in his book too about how to attain power and everything. So maybe yes, maybe no, but yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting.
Which chapter stood out to you the most?
Well, actually, I have a good quote here. It's on page 56. I guess it's chapter. Yeah, I guess he highlights it with chapters, huh? I guess it's how princes should honor their word. It'd be that chapter. Page 56 on my Penguin copy here. But I'm gonna go ahead and read from it because I think this quote just says everything. I think this is a really powerful one. I was like, wow, he's just being brutally honest here, which I appreciate too. I think that's the thing about Machiavelli. You may not like his philosophy, but at least he's being honest. He's like, you know what? People are kind of douchebags sometimes, so let's just lay it bare, So anyway.
Which chapter you said? Sorry.
This is chapter, 18. Chapter 18.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So he says, so now he brings up the ancient Greeks, which is pretty cool too, because it's like, oh, and I didn't know the centaur actually had a name. And then so he continues, so that he might train them his way. All the allegory means in making the teacher half beast and half man is that a prince must know how to act according to the nature of both, and that he cannot survive otherwise. I have an addition to that quote, but we'll talk about that part right there. I thought that was a really good. I love that allusion to the Greeks, the ancient Greeks, and the centaur. It was pretty cool.
Well, can I just say really quick?
What's up?
The Roman Empire gets a lot of radio play. Now, for those of you that are too young to remember the radio, it's a figure of speech that means that you
or it gets a lot
hear
of
about it a lot, right? But the Roman Empire, as great as they were, do you hear that?
Yeah, what is that? Alarm.
I live right down the street from a fire station.
Fire. Okay.
The Roman Empire, as great as they were not the first and they were not the only civilization at that time that were doing great things.
Yeah.
You know, because the Aztec and Mayans, I mean, they had pressurized water. They had all kinds of infrastructure that was on par with the Romans, if not better. So
yeah, and they had mathematics and astronomy.
So it's just funny that even in the 1500s, you had a dude who was obsessed with the Roman Empire.
Yeah,
you know what I
mean. He's talking about the Greeks too. Yeah,
and the Greeks. Yeah, the Greeks and the Romans get a lot of radio play. But go ahead.
Yeah. But I love his allusion to Chiron the centaur, because basically he's saying all this means is that when Achilles has to fight the centaur, that man, like when you go to try to be a ruler, man is both. What is the centaur? It's like his top half is human, and his bottom half is beast. And so basically there's two parts to us. There's one that's human, that's high thinking, you know, kind of like what we're doing now. We're talking about art, talking about philosophy a little bit. And then there's a beast part to us too that's more unpleasant and like more brutish and nasty and cruel.
I feel like I relate to that more, to be honest.
I think the older you get, the more you're like, oh man, we're all just beasts here.
I mean,
but I love that though, because he combines. He's just being honest. He's just ripping away the mask. He's like, hey, look, we're all just kind of a little, you know, we're part good, we're part, you know, beasts at the same time. Like it's nothing to be ashamed of, but he's being honest with it, which I really liked how he strips that away. Yeah, but he uses it using fancy language and fancy Greek allusions. But I like that quote a lot.
I mean, I like some of the themes that he talks about. I don't necessarily agree with his approach, but then again, why would someone in the 21st century agree with somebody in the 16th century as far as politics?
Right. Yeah.
As far as power dynamics.
Yeah.
Military strength, which is funny because it seems like those are still the dynamics we have today. Because he talks about...
By and large.
Right. He talks about how control depends on force and preparation. And
being behind the military. Yeah.
You know, if he would have lived long enough to see the American military industrial complex, I feel like he would have it would blow his mind, right?
Yeah.
Because nobody back then especially could have predicted what we would have today in terms of power. You know, who was it that said? Was it Teddy Roosevelt that said carry a big stick? And like, what's the phrase?
Speak softly and carry a big stick, or walk softly.
And the funny thing is that Americans do anything but speak softly. So we talk loudly and we still carry a big stick.
Especially one party today, yeah. Yeah.
But it affects the rest of the world, right? And that's
which I don't think is a good strategy. And even Machiavelli, you're bringing that up, Adrian. Yeah. Even Machiavelli would say you don't do that. Like today, we're talking about the conservative party. Like today, they're not doing Machiavellian stuff. They're ripping every mask off. Like he's saying, you gotta be careful about it. You gotta be ploying. You gotta be calculated. This current version of the Republican Party is not doing that at all.
I have another hot take about that, by the way.
What's that?
I don't think the current regime is taking the mask off. I think they're just exposing the cracks in the failed system that we've had for decades. Because the fact that it's been so easy for them to do what they've been doing and trying to do everything that they've been doing, the fact that it's been that easy just shows you that it was a flawed system to begin with, pretty much. Because none of the guardrails that we were supposed to have in place, we have anymore. Like they're pretty much gone. They're out the window.
To be going away. Yeah.
We're a crumbling empire. I really do believe that. Like the United States, I really do believe that we're a crumbling empire. We're a crumbling empire culturally, economically, which is never great, right? For the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And even militarily. Like, yeah, we have a huge military presence everywhere.
I think our military is going to be pretty strong still, but that's probably about it. You know,
but for how long?
Yeah, I don't know.
They're so desperate to recruit people that they're like, I don't know. I've heard that the military, especially like the army and stuff, is very desperate to recruit. But the point is that like we're sort of in the beginning phases of the fall of like the Roman Empire, for example.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people like to compare the U.S. to the Roman Empire, but there's
well, he talks
it's
about
a good shorthand, but you know.
Yeah. It's just you talk about the fall of empires, like the fall of the United States, because he does bring up like the fall of rulers as well too. It's like what brings a ruler down a lot. He'll bring that up
Talk
a lot.
about that. Yeah. What does he say?
Like a lot of different rulers, he talks about like, if you're too generous, you will falter because he says like I was like okay. He basically says if you give people too much, they'll either forget about you or they won't fear you because he talks about fear and love. So he said if you're not going to be a fearful ruler, that they're going to forget about you and they're not going to be scared. And so it really comes down to fear. So it's not the he doesn't belittle generosity too much, but when he brings it up, he basically says like what happens is generosity is just forgotten.
You know what that reminds me of?
That's
Have you heard?
he's not saying like generosity is bad because he says like a little bit is okay, but he says if you're
Right.
too generous, people are gonna forget about you. They're not gonna care. They're gonna actually go
Which is
against you.
BS, by the way. I think it's BS.
You think that's okay?
Oh yeah,
We
absolutely.
can
You know
talk
what?
about
You know what it reminds me of? Have you heard the saying that people have been saying a lot lately, where it's like weak men create
Yes, it does sound a little
bad
bit like
times,
that.
strong
I was
men
kind of
create.
I was kind of thinking about that myself too because he brings that up a lot. How like being generous, being kind is like bad strategy. In the
But that's
long,
BS.
he says that in the long run, that's bad strategy. I think
I
it's
don't think
definitely.
so.
You don't think so?
No.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's a big mix. Like I think you got to be careful when you're trying to seek political power. I think in day to day life, yeah, of course, everyone wants to be generous, and he even says he does say like, oh, a ruler should be viewed like they should want to appear kind and appear generous. So he talks about it on a superficial level, like you should appear to be generous, but you shouldn't actually be that generous.
Right. Right. Did you ever watch John Adams on HBO?
Yes,
John Adams.
yeah, great show. Yeah,
Do you remember
yeah,
when he goes to France and they
yeah.
ask him about like
And Ben Franklin's
I
there.
forget what they ask him, but he says something like, "I do what I do so that my children don't ever have to worry about suffering or struggling, so that they can create art and they can,
Yeah,
do whatever they
do what
want.
they
That's
want.
not
Yeah,
war. That's not, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
thought that was such a poignant scene in that series because he puts it perfectly. Like he's like, I do what I do, which is the tough stuff, like, managing
Yeah.
a country and during war and all that, so that my kids don't ever have to worry about that and when they're growing up, and that's that goes back to the whole weak men create. What is it? Weak men
Weak
create
times, weak
tough
times.
times, strong men create. But it's like, yeah, I think John Adams said it best in the John Adams show. I highly recommend that series if for
Yeah,
those.
that was a great series.
But yeah, I don't agree with Machiavellian and on this.
You don't agree with being generous is
No,
a bad strategy, political strategy? I think it
not
depends.
completely. I guess it has its uses, right?
Yeah,
Like if you're
yeah,
dealing with a hostile foreign country government, right? You probably really have to think about and strategize like how you're going to
yeah, yeah.
approach any given issue.
So, yeah, my take on that, on being generous, like he talks a lot about like giving money and keeping your money. He says it's better to keep your money because like you'll never run out. So even if you're not sure what to do, you just hold on to it. That's what he's basically arguing. This is being selfish with your money. However, like what you're saying, Adrian, I think there's a lot of like, for example, we'll take our current president, Donald Trump. It's like Trump loves money. If you were to give him money, you can get favors out of that. So you're technically being generous, but all he does is love like fame, attention, power, and money. So if you were to give him some money and be generous to him, he probably would give you something in return. Obviously he would, because that's all he lives for, pretty much.
You know what
So
I
it's like
think?
it depends on the rule, it depends on the situation, and of course, like he does talk about like you want to be kind to the populace, but if you're over kind, what he talks about is like being over kind. So I agree with him to that extent, but I would probably more agree with you overall, where I would say, of course, I want to be the generous leader. I would give healthcare to all my people. That's what I would do. That's how I operate. But
I want to go back to what you're saying about Trump. Yeah, I think he used to love money. I think now he loves power more than anything because once you
yeah,
have
yeah.
once you have it
Once you
more
have
than enough
billions,
money,
yeah, billions, yeah,
there's nothing else left except power. That's it. Like that's what people say. Like, why do these billionaires do what they do? Like, if I had $1 billion, I would just f off into the sunset. It's like, well, but that they're not. They don't think that way. They have all the money they want. That's not a factor anymore. Now it's about
I
like
mean,
what's
yeah.
what's more than money? Power,
I mean, if you
right?
look at Elon Musk is a great example too. I mean, richest man in the world. Like, what is he doing? Like, what is he doing? Like,
And it's
what
only
are
going to
you
get
doing?
richer.
Yeah, like what is
But
he
even
doing?
for him, it's the
He
same
could
thing.
solve so many issues. He can give healthcare to everyone in the world and give us a
Yeah,
better school system. The whole thing. He could
they
do
don't
it.
care about that.
Like,
They come from the Peter Thiel school of thought, where they don't believe that democracy is a valid function of or a valid form of a functioning society anymore.
yeah,
They basically want to take us back to like a techno feudal state, And I think Musk is one of those people. Like, he's only going to get richer, but that doesn't even matter to him. Like, he bought Twitter for I don't know how many billions of dollars, not because it was a good investment and it was going to make him more money. He bought it because he now has control of one of the biggest social media platforms in the world, and he can use that. I mean, look how much damage the guy has done. Look how much damage Trump has done in 140 characters or less. Yeah. They never had to fire a bullet. They never had to fire a missile. Well, Trump did recently in Iran, but that's beside the point. They've done so much damage to this country without having to fire a single bullet. You know, that's power right there. When you can own a platform like that and say and do it, and basically rally the masses to believe whatever you say, whatever the narrative is, they're going to believe it. Like, that's real power.
Pretty much. It's pretty crazy.
And Machiavelli and George Orwell and Huxley couldn't have predicted any of that. They couldn't have predicted that people would just willingly.
I don't think, like Machiavelli's day, like the propaganda today, like the machine, the technology, like it's crazy the speed of it. Because like even me, I'm an assistant teacher right now, and I'm like, there's no way the education system can keep up with that in a way, like you can prepare students as best you can, but who knows what the next like 10 or 20 years, like propaganda is just going to be even faster.
Yeah,
with AI too now, AI is going to be very fast. So like, there's going to be, there's a lot of crazy stuff coming in the next decade. So it's unpredictable.
I feel like we were the last generation to get a relatively decent public education. I don't think like my son's generation, I don't think he's going to get the same kind of education that I did.
Future, Adrian, come on.
I'm sorry to say this. I know you work in education, but I'm not saying because of the quality of the teachers. I'm saying because of the system. The system is broken.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, it's tough.
And now we're actively gutting each like major system in American society. So it's like it's going to get even worse than it already was. Unfortunately,
I went to a meeting yesterday and they talked about even like the money cuts too. It's just like it's a reality. It's like well, there's a lot of money cuts.
Budget cuts. Do more with less, and it's like. Sure. How can you do more with less? And also, like, this next wave of kids, they don't care. You hear it all the time, and I don't know about you. Obviously, maybe you can speak on this, but I've heard so many teachers say these kids out here don't care. They don't want to read. They don't want to learn. They don't want to do anything that's related.
I think you hear that a lot with high schoolers. I feel middle school, high school start to feel that. I'm in elementary, so it's a lot less. But I definitely think like the older you get, I think college. I don't know, this is a whole nother conversation, but college should be either cheaper or
free.
I mean, you should have like courses that teach you like, to be quiet for like an hour or two and just read and think. Like, don't turn off the rest of the world and be patient for a moment.
There should be a sensory deprivation chamber in every university across the country.
Read and you be quiet and you just think for yourself for a moment, Gosh.
Yeah, no.
Anyway.
I'm serious. There should be a sensory deprivation center in every university across the country. Help us.
It's like everyone turn off the world for a second and just think.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to add to the quote. So this is on the same page. So speaking of back to Machiavelli here, I wanted to add to the quote. So this is the allusion that I brought up with the Greeks.
This is all related. We're doing the Trump weed, baby. Don't worry. Sure. We're all this. We're
all friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next part of the quote is really good. I want to add this to it. So he says, so as a prince is forced to know how to act like a beast, he must learn from the fox and the lion. Because the lion is defenseless against traps and a fox is defenseless against wolves. Then he says, therefore one must be a fox in order to recognize traps and a lion to frighten off wolves.
Sounds like Tywin Lannister for a second.
I know a little bit. Remember when he's gutting the, what was he gutting?
Yeah, it's the elk or the, what do you call it?
Yeah, the Baratheon, the elk, yeah. Those who simply act like lions are stupid. So it follows that a prudent ruler cannot and must not honor his word when it places him at a disadvantage. Sound familiar? And when the reasons for which he made his promise no longer exist. If all men were good, this precept would not be good. But because men are wretched creatures who would not keep their word to you, you need not keep your word to them.
I
love that last one. It's great.
That reminds me of another John Adams quote when Alexander Hamilton says, if men were angels, no government would be necessary. You know what I mean?
That's a good one. Wait, was that Adams or Jefferson?
It was Hamilton. It said that to...
Hamilton. Yeah.
To Jefferson.
I do... Yeah. So that...
Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah, let's do a little Hamilton now. But sometimes he hits like on a real deep truth there where he's saying like, men are wretched creatures who do not keep their word. Some men are just liars. So he's basically saying the ruler should and can try to maintain his power how he can.
Well, he's absolutely right. We are wretched creatures, and I'll tell you why, David. I'll tell you why. We have we evolved to have the smartest, most efficient brain that allowed us to create all these magnificent things. And what do we do instead? What do we do instead? We destroy, we kill, we're a parasite. Now, we used to not be as parasitic. Now I mean, the world is on the death knells of, collapse, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes full sense, but yeah, like, we have all this great processing power up here, and we choose to do terrible things like colonize and genocide and starve people and all that terrible stuff that you constantly hear about every day. So anyway, that's so he is right about that. We are wretched creatures. We are the worst, and it's unfortunate because we had so much potential.
Thank you for bringing a message of hope and peace and love.
We had so much potential. Like, it's like that meme, that meme where it says, like, if something didn't exist, and it's like a futuristic cityscape with like perfect green forests and like futuristic flying cars. Like, you've seen that meme, right? I'll have to drop it in the edit.
Almost like a utopia kind of.
That's what we could have had if we weren't too busy destroying each other. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I loved his quote on. As far as the wretched creatures, I definitely think there's definitely a lot wrong with us. There's no doubt about that.
Well, can I just say, sorry, going back to what you were talking about earlier, image versus reality, appearances often matter more than truth in politics.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's kind of like a dumb moment for me. Like, like you don't act the same in front of your boss as you do in front of your best friend.
Yeah.
You don't act the same in front of your father as you would in front of your priest. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know if you go to. I don't think you go to church, but you understand what I'm getting at. Like,
Yeah.
we're always changing our dynamic based on the situation we're in. So it's like, did Machiavelli really like blow the lid off something when he said that about politics? Like, obviously, especially politicians have to.
Right. I think maybe at
more
the
than
time,
anybody.
I think maybe at this time, maybe a little bit, because remember, this is in the 1500s. I think there were a lot of political writings at this time that didn't like strip away the mask as much as he did, which is why it has staying power today. A lot of them would just say, "Oh, be generous, be kind, and be a philosopher," and all this other stuff, which is great. But that's the high-minded, great stuff. But he's talking about the beast. He's talking about like the nasty stuff. Like, people are wretched.
Right.
People lie. People cheat. People steal, and they always will. So that's what he's getting at.
It's all human nature stuff. That's what I'm getting at.
Right.
It's like, duh, Machiavelli. What else do you want to tell me? That the sun is going
There
to
is a
rise
little bit
tomorrow?
I think I think the older you get, and then also like in our day and age, just after a while, you're like, yeah, of course, it's pretty obvious. But it's good to hear it at least in a book, even as a
it validates everything that we feel about that sort of stuff, right? In a good way and in a bad way. Because I was not into this book at the beginning. I was like, this is very dry.
I had a hard time with it too, because I was like, it was pretty dry, pretty boring at parts, because it talks about a lot of the history.
Yeah, a lot of history, and I like history, mind you. I have a whole book I have tons of history books. But here's the thing: once I started thinking about all the major themes of it, I'm like, okay, I understand why David chose this, and I'm glad you verbalized that at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Definitely has political meaning today.
Yeah.
But yeah, this last quote where he says, "One must be a fox in order to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten off wolves." And this is relevant to today. Those who simply act like lions are stupid. I still love that because he's being...
I can't imagine why.
Yes. And I was like, I love that because he's saying, like, you can't always just go full lion, And I feel like we're getting a lot of that today.
Get what you want.
Yeah. I feel like we see a lot of that today in a certain regime, where they're just going full lion and like, this is not going to end well for you guys, and this is just going to be terrible for a lot of people.
Don't you think that, like, we've been seeing this even before Trump? Maybe not as obvious as
not as obvious,
but like, we're both old enough to remember the George W. Bush administration. And, they lied through their teeth about Iraq having nuclear weapons in order for us to. That was Machiavellian as hell. You know what I mean?
That was Machiavellian. This administration is more like they're like a stampede of lies. Like, it's like a wildebeest of lies. They just like storm you with lies without any really even intent. It's almost just like you're just lied to all the time. So what I've noticed when you do that, I don't believe anything they say.
No.
Like, I just turn them off. And I'm like, I don't even listen to them anymore. Like, there's no point. Which is also a horrible place to be. They're not being Machiavellian at all. They're not thinking about strategy or anything. Like at least with Bush, there was some thinking and strategy, and some more,
Right. There was some
you know,
decorum.
some
Yeah.
normalcy to it. Now
Right.
it's just like I'm just gonna lie about everything. Like okay, well,
We're in a hyper abusive relationship right now.
yeah,
That's what the problem is. That we have battered wife syndrome. And no, I'm serious.
that way for
It's
sure.
the same exact dynamic as being in an abusive relationship. It's the
Yeah,
constant gaslighting, the constant abuse, the constant lies,
yeah,
and we have nowhere else to go, right? Like we can't just get in
yeah,
the car and drive to the mountains and be done with it. Like no, we're stuck.
yeah.
We're not going anywhere. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. He also talks about towards the end of the book. I'm trying to find the quote that I had. There was actually interesting because this has to do with today's political. Oh yeah, he talks about so in chapter 23, he says how flatterers must be shunned. So he is against flattery in politics. So when the king gets flattered by all his subordinates, he's very much against being flattered all the time and saying like, "Oh, you're a great king," because he says, let's see, what quote do I want?
Well, that makes me think about Hitler.
Yeah,
Hitler would pit all
he
his
was
top
flattered.
generals against each other to see who
Yeah,
was like the most loyal. And you see that honestly in current and not just in the Trump administration, but you've seen that in past administrations too.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
You
this is
know,
a very common thing with
infighting.
like Trump is a great example, but the more insecure you are, you're just gonna surround yourself by flatterers because you don't want to handle. You can't take the truth.
Right. You can't handle the
You
truth.
can't handle the truth. But if everyone can speak the truth to you, then you lose respect.
That's where the phrase comes from. A cat can look at a king, right? Speak truth to power.
Yeah, speaking truth to power.
Good leaders
They
don't
should want
mind
that.
when the people that surround them speak truth to power.
Yes.
Good leaders. But
Yeah.
we don't really have that many good leaders anymore.
Yeah. On this one, I agree with them. Like, this is true today and back then because he could recognize that, like, if you're a narcissist and you can't handle truth and you're insecure, that's just horrible for not only you but your rule and everyone else because there's just going to be a disaster that's going to come up and you gotta have. He's basically arguing. Basically, what it sounds like to me is even though he argues for a lot of cruelty and a lot of deception, he also admits that there's lots of stuff that the ruler doesn't know, that he's not smart enough, so he better surround himself with some people who are smart and know what they're talking about, because you're going to need that at times. That's what he's saying.
Right.
So that is like still true then and today, because it's like I'm not a military expert. I need a military guy, like if I were to be ruler, like me going to battle, I have no, I need
Well,
help
here's the thing.
with CDC and medical, But
Yeah,
if you don't have that,
yeah.
if you have a leader that's like, no, I know everything, it's like, well, that's a disaster. So
Well, here's the thing. You could hire an expert, or you could
Yeah.
hire a Fox News host.
yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, got you there. Machiavelli would say the same thing.
Machiavelli would be like Rupert Murdoch today or something. I don't know.
Oh, also, this is a funny line. I have so many great quotes from this book. He says,
Hit me.
since men will always do badly by you unless they are forced to be virtuous."
What does that mean, virtuous? Like in that context, what does he mean by virtuous?
Forced to be virtuous. I guess he means like being truthful, honest, considerate,
Well, yeah.
all the
Well,
positive adjectives.
that ship sailed a long time ago.
So, do you agree with that quote, Adrian, where he says, "Since men will always do badly by you unless they are forced to be virtuous"? I don't quite 100% agree because I don't think like I'm still a pretty virtuous person, even though no one's forcing me to do it. But I'm not perfect. But what do you think?
I think that people can be virtuous, but again, it depends on the circumstances. It depends on the kind of person that we're talking about. Like a lot of people are only thinking about themselves and what they can gain from working with somebody terrible, right? And if you're willing to work for somebody terrible to gain something, I don't see that as virtuous. I don't see that as allowing you to be capable of being virtuous. So I think it just depends.
Okay.
I think it just depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Was Goebbels virtuous? Probably not.
No.
Was
that a
yeah,
real
like
question?
any of the top German leadership during World War II, like were they virtuous people? Probably not.
No.
You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah.
What was Kissinger virtuous? I don't think so.
Yeah.
He was considered a very evil man.
Yeah. I'm actually not too familiar with Kissinger. All his was he involved with Vietnam?
He was.
Okay. Yeah. that's what I
He's
thought.
blamed for a lot of the deaths that happened in that era.
Yeah. Okay.
Because of his policies, and
his pushing.
he had obviously Richard Nixon's ear because he was his
Yeah.
chief of staff.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of that, that would be a good time to bring up Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon to me is much more Machiavellian than Trump.
That's a great example. Yeah,
I
you're
think
right.
I think he's a very good example
Absolutely.
of someone who's actually smart, who's thinking about playing the game, is manipulative on purpose. Lies, but only lies when he has to. Kind of like his because he actually did some good things surprisingly, but like he was very much like he didn't really know where he stood. He was a crazy person as well. A terrible president
Well,
overall.
he was incredibly smart. Like
Yeah, but he's
people,
very
I don't know if
smart.
people realize this about Nixon. He was a
Yeah,
very smart dude.
yeah, he was smart. He was a smart guy, but he
But
was
again,
not very good.
he didn't
Terrible.
use his brains for good things mostly,
No.
right?
And he didn't have good judgment. But like he did some good things, but he was Machiavellian. He was always thinking about himself and his power, and he was concerned more with that. But ultimately, he still was a president for America, if that makes sense. As terrible as he was, you know what I mean? Like I feel like today we just have
Well,
someone who doesn't
you
care about.
used to have to be patriotic to be a president.
He used to be a lot, have to be a lot of
Even
things.
Reagan was patriotic. I mean,
Yeah,
as much as I hate Reagan, I'll admit he loved his country. I just
yeah,
think he was extremely evil at the same time. Like he loved
yeah.
his country, but he also was evil. Like two things can be right at the same time, you know?
Sure.
I don't think Trump loves America. I don't think he loves the country. I just think he only loves himself, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I think
Totally.
even Bush loved America. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was patriotic.
Yeah.
But again, if you look at a patriotism starting with Nixon and then to now, like it's just a straight ladder all the way
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. Oh, for
To
sure.
the point
For
where
sure.
like there is no more patriotism.
I know. I mean, maybe not. I
But
had
Nixon
another
is a
great
great
quote.
example. I'm glad you bring him up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I just think that's a good historical analog for us today to think of like Nixon would be a good Machiavellian example of a politician today. I'm trying to think if there's another one
I feel
on the
like Clinton would have
Democratic.
been a good example on the Democratic side.
Who?
Clinton. Who?
Oh,
Yeah. Who?
who?
Bill
I
who?
didn't hear you. I didn't hear you. I don't know
No, I'm
Clinton.
kidding.
Who are you talking about? I don't know Bill Clinton.
Because I think he was a huge manipulator as well. You know what I mean?
Clinton's probably is much more Machiavellian. I don't know if he. I don't know if he's like he definitely was into power, like probably not like what we think about like Trump or something, but yeah, he definitely is a liar for sure. I mean, he's not on the scale of Trump, but he definitely like knows how to lie and when to lie. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, and that's the key thing to being a successful politician is you have to be willing to not just lie, but you have to be willing to sell your soul in a way.
very many ways.
Because
Yeah.
these guys will campaign on I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I promise you this and I promise you that, and then they get into office and it's like, what? Oh no, I'm actually going to go start a war over here. I'm going to go bail out some banks over here. I'm going to, you know what I mean? Like I'm going to
Yeah.
shut down
Right,
the
right, right.
CDC over here, things like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah, very true. There's another thing early in the book. I wanted to bring this up in The Prince, as we are discussing here. Lovely cover. With The Prince here, one thing that brings up that I wanted to bring to your attention, Adrian, I don't know if you remember this, but he says one of the best, most effective expedients would be for the conqueror to go live there in person. And in that one, he's referring to how do you rule a place that you don't come from. So he's basically talking about because he's talking about colonialism. The different princes and rulers at this time were all like trying to like colonize and take over other land. He was actually arguing like you should go live there. You should actually be a part of there. If you're not from there, then you should go live there, which is pretty interesting because it will put you in with the people, and the subordinates and the poor and the peasants. They'll probably take a liking to you a little bit more, and that actually works even today in modern days. Because I was like thinking of, even just an example of like state to state. Like if you remember. Like for example, like one that pops in my head is, well, actually, we just talked about Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was from Arkansas, so he actually won the state of Arkansas in the election. Why? Because he's from Arkansas. Like that's it. Like the whole South, and he actually won a lot of the South, I believe. And same thing with Joe Biden. He won Pittsburgh. Why? Because he's from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
right.
Or he won Pennsylvania. But that's a good example. Like today, that still happens. Like if you're from there, you get like a big boost in support. For whatever reason, it's not really a there's no logic behind it. But hey, you're from there. Hey, I know this guy. He's from my backyard. I was thinking about that in terms of immigration too, and I think what we've seen today with the current regime is a big backlash with so much immigration to the United States over the past 3-4 decades that has now reached a huge. What's the word I'm looking for? There's so many immigrants
An
to our
apex.
country now. Like an apex. but it's like it's overfilled, and there's so many different cultures, and it's almost like a lot of conservative minded people, they can't handle it. There's too many cultures, there's too many different immigrants, too many languages, too much different food. The cultures are all swapping. America is no longer white dominated, and it's like it's just a lot. And I actually kind of like connected with that, where it's like we're getting so much influx of immigration, so many different voices, and now we have the internet. I think that has just like really messed with people's heads, and they went full blown like fascism because we had this crazy guy talking bad about immigration. And
I agree.
I think it brings a voice to decades and decades of immigration, which has been very, very good, but for people who are conservative and like traditional values, they can't handle it. That's just
Right.
being honest. So
I mean, I understand the viewpoint. For me, I think that variety is the spice of life, and America
yeah.
being a melting pot is a
Oh
good
yeah.
thing. It's not a
It's
bad
great.
thing.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
great.
good thing to be a melting. Why would you want to have a homogenous society? Like, why not have diversity? Why not have diversity of culture,
We're
of religion or lack thereof, of everything? Like there's nothing wrong
we're
with that.
forced to have diversity because we're on one planet. Like we're not all like that. I still don't get that. Like the fact that today in 2025 we're on one planet Earth, many different cultures. You can go fly to any country now, and you'll see different cultures, different foods, different languages, different politics, whatever. And people still haven't like in our own country locked that in to like nope, stay out, or like oh too much, I don't want that. I don't know. It's a very weird thing, but
Yeah,
we're
they
still not
see
there yet,
they
unfortunately.
see it as a threat.
Yeah.
They constantly peddle the whole white replacement theory, and it's like, what replacement theory? Like, if anything, we did that to the indigenous people of this country
Oh, yeah.
when we landed on these shores. We replaced them almost to the point of extinction.
Hmm.
So it's like now they're afraid that that's going to happen to them, and it's like, you realize how hypocritical that is.
Yeah.
Like you being afraid of becoming the minority. Like, oh wait, are minorities treated badly in the United States or something? Like, why would you be afraid to be a minority? You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
they fail to see the connection there, and
Yeah.
it's very upsetting. So
Yeah. Yeah, but I just saw that connection between immigration and modern day times with us, with our current system. Also, there was another point on the same page. He also says this, which we'll talk about. This is a bit more about military. So he says the other superior expedient is to establish settlements in one or two places. These will, as it were, fetter the state to you. Unless you establish settlements, so he's talking about putting settlements in other countries, other cities, other places that you're not from, the ruler. He says you will have, unless you establish settlements, you will have to garrison large numbers of mounted troops and infantry. Settlements do not cost much, and the prince can found them and maintain them at little or no personal expense. So he's basically saying like you want to open up other cities or settlements that are under your name or whatever, so you can earn some money, and you can create like peaceful settlements in other lands. Otherwise, you're going to have the military come in. And so in that one, he's trying to argue against military, rule, just full blanket state, which I like, because he's not going full blown. He definitely is like trying to be like more of a fox here, not the lion. He's trying to like find other ways to establish rule in other cities and countries that are more peaceful. And that goes back to today. So like in our modern times, we have the military industrial complex. Just I think what we've seen too is a backlash with America, where we have established so many bases and troops around the world, especially in the Middle East, that creates such a huge backlash. Like that's not how we should do it. And I don't think in modern times either we should try to establish other religions and faiths either. I think that's a huge backlash too. I think the best way to do it is like schools and like libraries and like just simple like I don't know what if you have a modern day equivalent. If you think of like if you want to take over another country, or you want to like create a peaceful relationship with another country, like what are some other ways to do it rather than just like having the boot on someone's neck,
I think as long as you meet people's basic human needs like healthcare and housing
Simple stuff.
and to an extent education, as long as people can have those needs met, and they don't have to worry about medical debt, they don't have to worry about not being able to afford college, they don't have to worry about not being able to afford a roof over their head, as long as you can provide those basic human needs to people, you can build a good society with, or honestly even with or without religion. And you know me, I'm a big atheist,
You're
and
atheist,
I say that I understand religion's place in society, even if I don't agree with it,
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I think education is super important, but if you want to rule with an iron fist, you can't have an educated population. They have to be as uneducated as possible. That way they don't realize how, like George Carlin said, and I'll censor it a little bit. They won't realize how badly they're getting hosed by the system.
I wonder what he said.
But yeah, I'm with you. I'm totally with you on
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I do like that rule because, like, yeah, because Machiavelli is not, giving, carte blanche for like rulers to like just lead by, troops and military. Like, even though he says it's important to establish rules and orders to maintain a strong military, like he's saying if you want to spread your dominion, spread your kingdom, you have to have other peaceful settlements there. You have to have money in there. That was one thing he talked about on that page too. Is like you have to have funds coming in from those countries or cities. Then it broadens out your power and your influence over there. Because maybe there's like a new currency that'll come up, or like, oh, people have to pay you now, and there's a tax, and so like, that'll piss people off. It's like at least you're basically forcing them to pay, you basically. So
Right.
yeah, that was pretty interesting. That was like more of a peaceful way to do it. Use the economic approach. Yeah. So let me see if there's other quotes here. I don't know if you want to add anything, Adrian.
I just wanted to say that humans are just by nature not a peaceful species, unfortunately. History is full of warriors and generals and all sorts of military leaders essentially just trying to take over the world. Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, you name it. Those are just two. Napoleon. I mean, that's just three examples of people who just all throughout history, they wanted to just be rulers. And they didn't do it peacefully. It was never peaceful. You can't take over a country peacefully. It's just not possible.
Do you think we'll ever have some, this is more of a broader question, but do you think we'll ever have some kind of peace, or will there always be...
Well, I say that, but
like
at the same time, this is one of the more peaceful times in human history, believe it or not.
Yeah.
As crazy as that is to say because of everything going on, this is one of the more peaceful times in human history. I don't know if it'll stay that way, though. That to answer your question. I don't know if we can maintain this level of peace or become more peaceful in time. I don't know if that's possible. I really don't. I think as resources become more scarce, as the environment continues to shift for the worst, right? And the population continues to, well, I guess we're not really on a population boom, but you know what I mean? Like there's 7 billion people, 8 billion people on the planet.
8 billion? 8.5
it's gonna,
billion?
yeah, it's gonna become harder for us to maintain peace. Unfortunately. And you know what? Maybe that won't reach a crescendo in our time, in our lifetime. Maybe it'll be in my son's lifetime. Maybe it'll be in his grandchildren's lifetime. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't have a lot of hope for the human species going forward. So I don't know. It's hard to answer.
Definitely, if we keep ignoring the science, which our culture loves to do at the current rate, we love ignoring science and truth. So.
Because with big environmental change, by the way, diseases are gonna come back. They are coming back. Some of them.
I'm scared about that too, especially with the vaccines. Like I'm scared what they're gonna do with vaccines and like just medical research. Like that's just not good. So.
Yeah, COVID was nothing compared to how bad.
Oh yeah.
It will potentially get.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So also some other good quotes. I'll just share some other good quotes here for the prince to finish up some of his interesting ideas. He says here, a man who becomes prince with the help of the nobles finds it more difficult to maintain his position than one who does so with the help of the people. I love that one. That's a good one. So on that one, he's actually arguing for you want to be with the people. You want to be a populist, not a fake populist. Like someone in the current White House, but you want to be someone that is actually. I think that's why like Bernie Sanders and like AOC talk about like politicians today. But I think that's why some politicians really stick with certain people. They resonate with. They go away from the standard party. Even like who's like a Republican that's more populist. Like maybe it would be like a libertarian or something. Like they had like Ron Paul was one.
Yeah, Ron Paul was a populist Republican.
Yeah. And then
he was a populist darling on Reddit for a while there.
Yeah. Ron Paul. Is that one thing of it? I forget.
But on the Democratic side, AOC and Bernie Sanders. You know what the problem with them is? The problem with them is that they're a minority.
Yeah,
there's not enough Bernie Sanders and AOCs out there. The majority.
The issue is today it's the rich and it's corporations. So like he says how if a prince becomes ruler with the help of the nobles. So the problem is our society and our culture has become completely the rich, the nobles of today. So it's completely now bought out. You have to have money. You have to sell your soul. And so the good ones who actually want to help the people, which get more popular support from the people, but because the rich can like gerrymander, rig certain things, spread their propaganda, they can get enough voices in there that they just completely stamp out the will of the people.
Yeah, going back to 1984, we are the proletariat, We are the proles.
Yes.
We're probably worse off than them. in that book.
Well, especially with inflation nowadays, I was like, oh man, yeah. I mean, it's gonna get worse and worse. Yeah, I love that quote a lot, just because he's talking about like you have to have the people on your side. I think back then it probably was easier in some ways because there was less ways to spread propaganda so fast. It was more about military rule and might. But also, he said one other thing that I did resonate with him. He said a ruler should always strive to not be hated. He was definitely on that fence where it says it's okay if the ruler is feared, but you don't want to be hated. He says there's a slight difference there. So you want to be feared that, that's why the military is so important, and maintaining order and loyalty with military and making sure you don't get any, speaking of thought control in 1984 in today's society. But you don't want people to get out of line with their thoughts and their own thinking. That's why, the regime today is anti-education. But you also want to be feared and not hated. I don't know if you can, what do you think the difference is between being feared and hated? What do you think, Adrian? You have any say on that? Like, what was he getting at there? Do you have any?
Fear. I mean, you can be feared and respected.
Yeah.
And you can also be feared and hated. And
yeah.
Like I said, two things can occur at the same time. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be feared or hated. I'd rather be neither. I'm serious. But that's me. Like, I don't want to be. I don't want people to fear me, and I don't want people to hate me.
Yeah. But I think I think it's healthier if you don't want to be feared.
Yeah,
if you want to be feared, if you think fear is a good way to control people, which it can be, then that shows that you're interested in power and greed and money, and you're interested in the wrong things. You're interested in having power over people.
Yeah, if you're in a position of power, it's going to be hard to not be either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're probably going to be both feared and hated.
Men are wretched creatures.
Men are wretched creatures.
Men are wretched creatures, as we have learned, as you have so eloquently put it.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I think Machiavelli said it first, but yes.
Yes, yeah. So anyway, Niccolo Machiavelli, The Prince. I thought it was I don't know what review you would give it, Adrian. I liked it. It was definitely not my favorite read by any stretch. There was a ton of history here. Yeah. Lots of different rulers. Many great quotes you can pull out, though, about power, greed, how to rule, how not to rule. You may agree with some, you may disagree. I think he's got some good ideas. Others I disagree with, but probably a 3 out of 5, I guess. I think for my money, when I saw this book and I had heard the term Machiavellian for so long, I was like, I gotta get this book. I gotta read it. I gotta read this evil, horrible Satanist book. And then I read it, and I was like, it was okay. And that's overall kind of what I think of it. It was okay. There's some good quotes, some interesting philosophy. So
all I'll say is that my final thoughts on it are that it was a bit of a paradox for me, because on one hand, I found the prose very dry and sometimes repetitive, but on the other hand, I thought the ideas were compelling enough for me to keep turning the pages. Yeah. By turning, I was listening to the audiobook, so you know what I mean, figure of speech. But I think I like that Machiavelli's blunt and often cynical take on power feels surprisingly relevant today, as we've been saying, and especially in a world where image and manipulation and strategic alliances still dominate politics and leadership, right? So even if the style didn't necessarily hook me, I think the substance of it definitely did. So that's how I mean, it's a short read, right? I think
that's what I was going to say too.
Read this in an afternoon.
It's only 85 pages. I mean, it's super short. So it kept pushing me to be I'm almost done with it. So, even if it's
and I like history, but again, it was the approach that wasn't the best. So I would also probably give it a 3 out of 5.
It's somewhere around there. Yeah, I think I really appreciate it for the history and the fact that we can read a book that's 500 years old that had big influence at the time and is still relevant today. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So good choice. I was a little worried about this one. I thought I was going to be bored out of my mind, but
I think you started getting it once you saw, once you got into some of his philosophy about, cruelty and being a fox and a lion and men are wretched and all that,
And I don't necessarily, I know I don't feel like a lion, and I don't always feel like a fox either. So I wonder what a better analogy would be for just for myself. You know what I mean?
Are you a vulture or something? Or
I think I'm more of a turtle.
Is it a turtle? Okay, you're a turtle. Maybe you could write a political philosophy, be you should be a turtle and a vulture or something, or a snail. Maybe I'll be a snail or something.
I'll call it shell shock.
Oh, there you go, shell shock. I look forward to your next book, Adrian.
Thank you.
A political treatise.
It'll
be known for another 500 years.
Let's hope so. Assuming books aren't all banned by then, right?
I know, huh? Hopefully not.
All right, David. Well, I think we did it. That was really good, David. Thank you for bringing that discussion to the table. The Prince by Machiavelli. Check it out if you're a fan of history, if you're a fan of the relevant overarching themes that are still appropriate to read about and learn about even to this day, I think it's going to be a good choice. So, but yeah, moving on to the Machiavelli really quick before we end the show here, we're going to do a new little segment we're calling the 2 Minutes Hate. And this is sort of the opposite of what they do on NPR Politics, where they always talk about something that they're really enjoying this week, whether it be a show or a movie or otherwise. We're doing the opposite, something we hate. That's as of late. I'll let you start, David, because this is your idea. So what is your 2 minutes hate?
My 2 minutes hate, or I guess we're going to do 1 minute. So this will be my 1 minute hate. So I went to a paint and sip the other day. So I love painting, and it's a fun hobby of mine. And this other guy across the table from me was just shouting and yelling the whole time. And he was like talking crap about his mom, who was there in attendance. And he was like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it happens sometimes, but he had his whole family there. And he was just super loud and super annoying. And I'm trying to like paint and concentrate. And I was like, this guy is just annoying the crap out of me. I'm trying to focus on my painting. I guess my hate in this sense would be just people who are obnoxious and loud. And everyone else was like peaceful there and calm. It was a beautiful day. I love painting and everything, and he was trying to take away my peace in that moment. And I was there. It took about 2 hours to do the painting, so I really enjoyed it. But at the same time, I was like, man, if this guy is not here, there was a part of me I was like, would you just shut up? Dude, no one cares about your mom or your family. Like, just shut up, dude. Like, thanks for the coffee, but go away right now, you know? So he was just one of those loud, obnoxious dudes. I did not care about his family or his problems or whatever. And I was like, this guy's just annoying me. So anyway, my hate is just obnoxious people who are loud and arrogant and irritating.
Well, thank you for that, comrade. Big brother would be proud.
So what's your 1 minute hate, Adrian? Tell us yours for this week.
Labubu's.
Okay, so those
Labubu's. Now, for those of you that don't know, Labubu's are a little keychain toy type thing that was popularized by, I believe, a Korean pop star several weeks or months ago. I don't even know how long it's been. It seems like it feels like it's been a year now, but I don't think it has been a whole year. And they are the latest craze amongst the social media elite, if you will. And it's gotten to the point, they're basically like the Beanie Babies of 2025. You remember Beanie Babies?
Yeah.
They're the Beanie Babies of this generation. And it's gotten to the point where even people who don't care about Labubu's are buying them up as much as they can to sell them at a marked up price on eBay and stuff. Right. And I just hate that, I hate when these waves of these popular fads, dumb things, these fads come along. Yeah, exactly.
Consumerism.
And consume the consumers, right? And it's just really annoying. And I think it's dying down. I think as we approach, I think it's already kind of peaked and dying down.
Do they look like Beanie Babies?
Sort of. They look like how do I describe them? Did you ever see what was that show?
I can't think of these things out. Labobo.
What's the name of that show with the sun? The sun comes up and it's a baby, and you have all these people dressed in
the show with the baby.
The show with the baby son, and the characters are all wearing these cute fuzzy outfits.
Oh, Teletubbies.
Teletubbies. Imagine like a Teletubby in the shape of a rabbit or something.
Okay, all right.
Okay. But maybe not the best description, but that's basically what it is.
To make you more angry, Adrian, I'm gonna go buy a Labubu's right now.
I'm jealous of the fact that you don't know what a Labubu is.
I'll look it up. I'll look it up. So,
because everything I've learned about Labubus has been against my will. So
Labubu's okay.
That's my 2 minutes hate. But great segment. I love it.
Yeah. We'll be doing that next time. Yeah, that was our first 2 minutes hate, so it'll be a fun one.
Speaking of next time, David, what book are we covering?
Next time the book we're covering is what is it? What's the name of that book?
Permutation City?
Permutation City. I just started it, by the way. So, yeah. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's out there.
I'm still working on it. Yeah. I'm really enjoying it so far. It's written in 1994. Yeah. And it's very relevant to today because of AI and stuff. So, I can't wait to discuss that.
I think it's been getting better for me. I just started it, but
it gets better, yeah. It gets more Machiavellian.
Okay. We'll find out.
All right, David. So that's the show. Where can people find you, and what are you working on?
As I said, I got my YouTube channel, Professor Pixel. New logo, new brand. I do science. I do art. I do stories. A lot of children's stories, which I like to write, and do all the science there. And go check out my channel. Check out my novel, Project Red Planet, which I talked about here on Book Brothers, which is a sci-fi comedy book. It's hilarious. It's cool. My uncle just finished it, and he said he liked it, but it's too much Guardians of the Galaxy for him. So if you like Guardians of the Galaxy, you might like it. Which I don't know what you think about that, Adrian. I was like, I don't know if I'll go with Guardians. It's more Douglas Adams, but...
Yeah, I could see like the found family aspect. Yeah, sure. Not too much though. But
All right. Anyway, plug away, Adrian. What do you got?
I see that as a compliment, by the way. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. Nothing much really. Follow me on Books Too Big on TikTok. I'm trying to upload more content. Got to feed the content beast, if you will.
Yes.
And then obviously follow my other podcast, the Never Seen It podcast at neverseenitpodcast.com. We talk about movies. We talk about lots of pop culture related stuff as well. Recently, some of my co-hosts went to San Diego Comic-Con. We have an episode coming out about that. Or it's probably already out by the time you hear this episode. But yeah, follow me on Never Seen It Podcast. We're on all the social medias, and that's pretty much it, David. So, and hey, follow the show, Book Brothers Podcast, on YouTube, YouTube Audio,
followers.
or YouTube Music.
I think the show's about to blow up soon with 2 Minutes Hate, so we'll see.
Yeah, we're gonna start sharing more content on YouTube Shorts and TikTok.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean we're out there, man. We're out there.
Yep.
So
Yep.
thanks a lot, David.
Yeah. Thanks, man.